Hi, my name's Paul and I'm a lead animal care specialist here at the Wild Encounters area at Brookfield Zoo. Today we're going to show you just one of the ways that we care for our animals' health and welfare here at the zoo. And today we're going to do that by weighing all of our goats. So we have a few keepers here that are going to help me with this. We've got Christy, and she's calling Picasso up to the scale right now. So he voluntarily goes up on the scale because Christy's rewarding him with treats. And then we're going to try to call him off the scale. And as anybody who's visited our goat yard will be aware, when we get all of our goats out here, it's probably going to devolve into just pure chaos, but that's okay. It's kind of fun that way. This is Cece, one of our younger goats. She came in 2018 with 3 other girls. We're going to send her away. We're going to call out one other goat. Oh, we've got a couple guys coming right back. We were a little bit worried about this. Normally, we will separate them a little bit more while we're trying to weigh them, but we thought this might be a little bit more fun and give you a little bit more of a close-up view of our goats.
Marty.
So we kind of suspected this would happen. This is Marty. This is actually one of the goats that you guys helped us name this summer. So we had a poll this summer to pick the names for 4 of our brand new goats that were born in April of 2019. And I'm really happy you guys picked these names because Marty is actually named after a really important conservation leader, Marty Murray. So if you're looking for something to do at home, I would say Google Marty Murray. She's a really important conservationist. She's actually called the grandmother of conservation. She was instrumental in forming the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. We just passed up Mr. Pants there, unfortunately. That's one of my favorite, and that is our biggest goats. I think we're gonna pan around. We're gonna show you Mr. Pants. He's our big guy. He's one of our most popular goats. I've seen it in your Facebook comments. We know that a lot of people are excited to see him, so we just want to make sure that we got him on camera. This is Greta, named after another important conservation leader, Greta Thunberg, which I'm sure a lot of you people are familiar with.
Right here.
We're gonna call her right off the scale, maybe, possibly.
Good boy, Diablo.
All right, this is Diablo, and even though he looks like he might be our biggest goat, he's our tallest goat. He's not our biggest goat. He's very, very he's very large vertically, whereas Mr. Pants is a little more horizontal, a little larger.
Good boy.
That was a really good weigh. So he's 52 kilos. So we actually weigh our goats in kilos because as a zoo, we work with a lot of zoos around the world. That was Picasso. That just that white and brown blur was Picasso. Because we work with a lot of zoos around the world, and a lot of other zoos work in metric units, and we want to stay consistent with them. So if we transfer our animals between zoos, everything can be consistent and easily transferable. I think we have a couple geese that want to be weighed as well. Oh, this is Sharpie, and you can tell Sharpie by his really cool toupee up there. And then this is, whoa, then we lost Yolanda. Any of the ones that you see kind of fly on by, we will get their weights a little bit later on. We're just trying to get through a whole bunch of them for you guys right now.
Jonesy.
This is Jones, one of our original goats.
Jones.
So one of the big questions we get with our goats, a lot of the time, is are the goats pregnant? Because as you can see with some of these guys, they are kind of wider, and none of these goats are actually pregnant. Goats are what's called ruminants. And ruminants have a 4-chambered stomach. So they've got the rumen, the reticulum, the omasum, and the abomasum. The rumen actually works like a storage tank. So they'll eat a lot of hay all at once, and they'll just store that inside. And then the hay it'll digest a little bit, and it'll move to the reticulum, where it gets formed into a little ball, and that ball is called cud. So if you ever stop by the goat yard and you see a lot of goats sitting around just chewing, they're not doing nothing. They're actually digesting their food, and then they'll swallow that food back down, where it will move to the 3rd and the 4th chamber in the stomach and get digested all the way. The reason they do that is because they eat a very nutritionally poor food. Grasses and hay are very low in nutrition, so they want to get all the nutrients out of that food that they can. So we've got a couple more stragglers in there. We'll see if we can get them out. So again, we do a lot of things through positive reinforcement. We'll ask our goats to come out. We'll ask them to go on the scale, and when they do, they get a treat. If they don't want to go on the scale right now, like you saw a couple of our goats just kind of fly on by, that's okay. They can do that. We'll just ask them to, again a little bit later.
Why don't they have horns?
Why don't they have horns? Well, with these guys, since they do have a lot of contact with people, when they're very, very little, our veterinary staff, they do remove the horns just because it would be kind of dangerous to have small children in with our goats. It's very easy. They use a little bit of anesthesia so they never feel it. Or anesthetic.
Okay. Shirley.
We have any other
She's
questions?
looking at you.
Yes, how many goats do we have?
We have 22 in total. We have 7 boys and 15 girls right now.
And why do they bump heads?
Why do they bump heads? Sometimes it's a play behavior. Sometimes it's kind of figuring out who's the boss. Sometimes it's sometimes it's trying to get the best spot at the feeding trough. But again, everybody gets all their food. You know, everybody's got as much food as they want. That's okay too. But going back to that, one of the main reasons that we do all this weighing is because weight is one of the best indicators of animal health. If an animal is way larger than we would expect, we might talk to our nutritionist and see if we might need to do a diet reduction on these guys. If our animals are a lot lower than we expect them to be, we might talk to our veterinarians and see if maybe that goat's not feeling really well. Maybe they need a checkup.
So what do they normally eat?
So as you can see, they normally eat hay, and they get as much hay as they want. We do give them some grain. Well, we call it grain, but it's basically kind of a complete diet, so anything the hay might be lacking, they get it in like a little pellet form. They don't get a whole lot of that. And then they also get mineral supplement, too, that contains other nutrients that might be lacking from hay.
And which goat is usually the heaviest?
Mr. Pants, right here, our all-star, our GOAT of GOATs.
Who's their favorite zookeeper?
I think Christy right here. Christy is their main keeper. We call her the run keeper of this area, and that's a run is kind of a section of the zoo. Christy sees them every day that she's working, so they know her, they love her. They know when Christy's headed to the yard, it means good things. It means either they're going to get treats, they're going to get their food, they're going to get their diet, or they're just going to be pet.
Why do some of them have beards?
That's just kind of the way the goats are. Some of the younger goats haven't developed their beard yet, but pretty much all the goats will, whether they're males or females. Occasionally we will get a goat that just won't develop a beard, and that's just kind of genetics.
Do we have any baby goats right now?
We don't have any really little babies, but we have 5 that were born in 2019, in April of 2019. So we've got Greta, we've got Daisy, who's right here, Yolanda, Liliana, and Marty. Those are our 5 babies from last year. So they're almost a year old, but they're still kind of small and adorable.
Let's see. How long do they live?
So goats tend to live into their early teens, generally.
Okay.
So another neat fact about goats that I'm sure a lot of you have seen if you've ever come to the goat yard, they have kind of horizontal pupils, and it's really unique. Some people, it's a little bit weird to them, but the reason they have those is so that they can see a very wide field of vision. So out in the wild, these guys might be a prey animal for a predator that might be hunting for something. If they have a horizontal pupil, they can see way in front of them and way behind them at the same time. So nobody's going to be able to sneak up on them.
What do they feel like?
They kind of feel like your dog at home, maybe like your cat if you have a cat at home. They're pretty fluffy. They're a little bit fuzzier right now just because it's been colder. They're losing a little bit of that the winter coat, but
can you remind us what type of goats these are and where they live?
yes, so these are dwarf Nigerian goats. So originally, this breed was from Africa, but they're domestic species. You wouldn't find these guys out in the wild, but they're a very popular species to keep. So there's a lot of them in the United States and all over the world. They stay pretty small, and that's one of the reasons they're popular. You don't need a lot of space for them. And you can still get milk from these guys. A lot of people around the world drink goat's milk, so that's one of the reasons they're popular. They don't require a lot of space or a lot of food, and you can still get some milk.
What does it mean when they wag their tails?
When they wag their tails, it usually means they're excited. So right now they're getting fed, they're really excited, they're really happy, and kind of hay crazy right now.
Are these goats good climbers?
They are. Sometimes when you come into this yard, you'll see them up on the bench. You'll see them in the rocks that are kind of on the goat side. They love to climb, and they sometimes, if you bend down on the ground, sometimes you'll wind up with a goat on your back. So you have to be a little bit careful, especially with the little guys. Greta, especially.
Why do we only have one type of goat?
That's just the type of goat that we decided to have here. In the past, back in the days when we had children's zoo here, we had different breeds. But we figured for this area, and since we are going to have a lot of people coming through, we would get a breed of goat with a very good temperament, that are kind of kid-sized, that aren't too intimidating.
Why are they digging towards the bottom of the bucket?
So with hay, what happens is a lot of the leafy stuff kind of falls off. We call it chaff, and that's the stuff that they really, really love. It kind of looks almost like a dusty mix of leaves and broken up stems and things like that, and they love it. So they're going to dig down to the bottom, get all that good stuff, and then they're going to move back to the stuff that's not quite as fun with the kind of the twiggy hay there.
Why are their ears shaped like tubes?
They're kind of tube or banana shaped. It's just so that they can kind of twitch them forward, twitch them back. They can hear things all around them, so it's kind of a shape that allows their ears to be mobile in both directions. Because again, they're essentially what could be a prey item out in the wild, so they need to be on guard at all times. Of course, our animals here, they're super safe, super happy all the time, so they don't really need that, but they still have the same ears as everybody else.
Well, let's see if I can find another one. Do they ever play with the llamas next door?
They don't play with them. We have actually brought the llamas over to visit. We've always had a fence in between the two, just because we don't want anybody to get too spooked. But they do seem very interested in each other.
Do they do yoga?
They haven't done yoga yet. They do some of the yoga on their own, but as you can see, especially with Mr. Pants, if we brought people in here to do yoga and a goat wound up on somebody's back while they're doing downward facing dog, we might have some issues because he is a rather large goat.
What animal's making noise in the background?
Those are the Canada geese. The wild Canada geese. Those are not part of our collection, but we do have quite a few on zoo grounds. They love to hang around year round.
Are any goats friends with each other?
I think so. Rembrandt and Picasso are brothers, and they tend to pal around with each other. We do have a couple other pairs. Laverne and Shirley like to hang out. That's a pair of our sisters.
How many hours do they sleep?
I'm not 100% sure on how many hours they sleep, but they're not overly sleepy animals. They're not like say like a sloth or something like that. If I had to guess, probably around 10 or so. But
what else
they do rest quite a bit. They lay down and rest.
Okay. What else do they eat besides hay?
So besides hay, we give them some goat pellets. It's kind of a complete diet. So if you have a dog or a cat at home, it's kind of like the dog or cat food, but formulated for an animal that eats hay and leaves and things like that. So it's a complete diet. They get a little bit of that as a supplement to the hay. Then they also get a mineral supplement. And then occasionally we'll give them treats, too. We always like to give them some sort of enrichment, whether it's different smells or different foods or things like that. So occasionally they'll get things like lettuce or chocolate fruit or different veggies. Just kind of mix it up and keep their diets interesting.
Do goats spit like llamas?
They do not spit. They do not spit.
Let's see. Are any pregnant?
We do not have any pregnant goats. Again, one of the things I mentioned earlier, and I know we have a lot of people that kind of tune in a little bit later on, these goats aren't pregnant. They just have a very wide belly because as a ruminant type of animal, they eat a whole lot of hay or a whole lot of other food all at once, and then they kind of digest that over a period of time. So they'll kind of store a lot of food in there, and it'll look like they're really, really fat or really, really wide or really, really just kind of bloated. But as they digest that, they kind of slim back down.
What are baby goats called?
Baby goats are called kids. So we've got a couple little kids in the back. That's Yolanda and Liliana.
And why is Mr. Pants called Mr. Pants?
Well, if you look at him, he's got those really stylish white pants with his black blazer that he's got on right now. But really, it's just kind of his coat pattern. So it kind of looks like he's wearing pants. We do get a little bit silly with some of the names because it's kind of fun, because we know a lot of you guys come in here and love to visit with them, so we want to give them names that you can remember.
Is there a dominant goat?
Again, I'd say either Mr. Pants or Diablo would be our two big dominant goats. Oh, Diablo, I believe, is right behind you over there. Yeah.
And who's the oldest goat?
A lot of these goats came in at the same time. So back when we opened about 5 years ago, we got the guys like Mr. Pants, Diablo, I think Dyson and Denali may have come in at the same time. And then we got another batch of 4 little girls in 2018, and then 5 girls in 2019. But everybody else kind of came in around the same time, so they're similar ages.
Do they have different eye color?
Some of them do. So with goats, blue is a pretty rare color, but in dwarf Nigerian goats, it's actually more common than a lot of other breeds. So we have a few. We've got CK, he's got blue eyes. Is it Dyson or Denali that also has blue eyes? And then most of the other goats have brown eyes, which is a more typical color for goats.
What do goats smell like?
What do they smell like? Well, depends on how much they've eaten. Because goats do produce quite a lot of gas in order to digest their food. So they can be a little bit stinky, but again, we love them. So here's Christy. She's giving out head rubs to our goats. So just so you guys can see that while you're not here, we still are visiting our goats, and we're giving our goats a lot of love, a lot of brushing.
What's a group of goats called?
It's called a herd. So we've just got a herd of goats here.
Why are the keepers wearing gloves?
Just as a precaution right now. Since we do have, we have a lot of keepers here, because we have a lot of animals here, and we need to make sure that we're coming in every single day because our animals need us. But we also want to be safe, so we do wear gloves just to make sure that we're safe around other keepers as well as our animals. Okay, so thank you guys for visiting with us today. One of the things I want from you guys is I want to know what your favorite goat was. I know a lot of them kind of ran past and we didn't get to name them, but if you can just let us know in the comments about who your favorite goat is, we're really curious about that. But besides that, we're really appreciative of you guys visiting with us today, and we hope you tune in tomorrow for our next Bringing the Zoo to You at 11 o'clock in the morning. So see you then.